Fair enough. All right. So what we have done so far is called progress measurement. And what we're going to do now is called performance measurement. Progress measurement is to convert the work in progress into percentage. That will help us to do the earn value calculation, whereas the performance measurement is after we calculated the earn value, we are going to figure out how the project is really performing, right? Cost wise as well as schedule wise. As you could see, we have cost variance, cost performance index, schedule variance, and schedule performance index. All right. Now there are totally 4 formulas, and I'm going to use the same example which we used a while ago. All right. What you could see here is the basic, the calculation what we have used basically. So we got 10,000 for each side of the wall. So 40,000 is your BAC, budget at completion, and we spent so far 32,000. That's your actual cost, and the earned value is 25,000, and we supposedly completed should have completed 3 sides of the compound wall as per the plan. So the planned value is 30,000. So if you see here, the cumulative of planned value is your BAC. All right. So these are the 4 metrics we are going to use. BAC is 40, actual cost is 32, earned value is 25, and the planned value is 30,000. Okay. All right, so we're going to find cost variance, schedule variance, then cost performance index and schedule performance index. All right, so what are these means and what formula we use? We will talk about it. This is the formula sheet. Now, if you see here, one quick thing, even without getting into detail, the one quick thing, if you look at it, in all the formula here, the performance formula, we are using earned value. Right, so obviously without finding the earned value, we cannot really figure out the performance of the project. Earned value is the key to calculate the performance of the project, right? The other interesting thing, if you notice in all the 4 formula is earned value always comes first in the formula. EV minus AC, EV over actual cost, EV minus PV. So earned value always comes first in the formula. All right, now let's calculate cost variance, cost performance index, schedule variance, and schedule performance index, right? One of the most important thing here is now, there were about 12 to 14 formula we are going to discuss now, in addition to this, totally in addition to this 4. Trying to memorize them could be a daunting task. I mean, see, in a real-time scenario, in your real-time project, you really don't have to memorize. Your Primavera has it, your MS project has it. But if at all you're preparing for an examination, right? Examination like PMP, Project Management Professional, or preparing for the exam CCP, Certified Cost Professional, then you need to sort of know this formula by heart. But trying to memorize them is not a great technique. What you need to do is understand this formula conceptually, logically. Then you don't really have to memorize the formula. The logic will help you to answer any questions in the exam. Such as, look at the cost variance. Okay, first we need to understand what is cost variance. Once we know what is cost variance, then it's just a matter of applying the logic and get the answer even without applying the formula. Right? Okay, what is cost variance? Cost variance is basically trying to figure out, did we spend more or less for the work what we completed so far? Okay, so cost variance is trying to find, did we spend more or less for the work what we had completed so far? Going back to our, the compound wall example, think about it. The amount of money we spent is 32,000, isn't it? Okay, the money what we spent on the project is so far 32,000. But how much work did we completed so far? We completed 2.5 sides of the compound wall, right? And that's how we figure out the earned value is 25,000, isn't it? Which means the value of work we completed is 25,000, but the money what we spent is 32,000. Which means straight away we spent 7,000 more than what we have accomplished. Getting my point? We spent 7,000 more than what we accomplished. Even without applying the formula, we know the performance is poor, right? By looking at our data, we completed 2.5 sides of the compound wall, for which we should have spent only 25,000, but we end up in spending 32,000, isn't it? Which means the performance is poor. And keep it in mind, whenever the performance is poor, as in this case, the variance should always comes negative. When you have a negative variance, the performance is poor. When you have a positive variance, the performance is good. So we know for our example, the variance is negative, right? So the formula is earned value minus actual cost, right? When you do the math, it will be 25,000 minus 32,000. So you have a cost variance of negative, within a bracket means negative. I'm sure you all know that. Is 7,000. So negative 7,000. What is negative 7,000 means? We spent 7,000 more than what we had accomplished, what we had budgeted for. Okay, as you could see here, whenever the cost variance is negative, we are over the planned cost, or simply put, over the budget. And whenever you see a positive value, you can say that you are under the budget or under the planned cost. When the variance is 0, you are on planned cost. All right, so that's called cost variance. Then we have cost performance index. Okay, now the formula for cost performance index is, instead of minus, we put divide. Earned value over or divided by actual cost. So 25,000 divided by 32,000, which gives you a CPI of 0.781. And now here is the important question. Most of my students ask me in the classroom training, what is the relevance of CPI? Why we need to find CPI? Now, don't we know our performance is poor already by looking at the cost variance? And not only that, cost variance tells you exactly how much money you spent more. So what is the point of this index value? CPI is used for two purposes. One, CPI will be used later for forecasting purpose. With the help of CPI, we can able to forecast what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so that is one purpose. The second purpose is CPI will tell you the magnitude of your project performance, right? Okay, your performance is poor. How poor it is? So CPI is a measurement which tells you the magnitude of your good or bad performance. Or in other words, we can say a CPI of 7.78 means for every dollar you spent on the project, you pretty much lose about 22 cents. So it's 22 cents per dollar, right? So this gives you an idea of how much you could possibly lose by the time you complete the project, right? So CPI is used to understand the magnitude of your project performance, and CPI is used to calculate the forecast of the project cost, which we're going to do it in the next few slides. Okay, now we are moving on to schedule variance. The formula for schedule variance is how much work you completed and how much work we supposed to complete, plan to complete. The work what you completed is 25,000. The work what you planned to complete was 30,000, isn't it? Because you're supposed to complete 3 sides of the compound wall, right? So it's going to be 25,000 minus 30,000. So the schedule variance is $5,000. Okay, so the schedule variance is negative $5,000. What do we mean by negative $5,000? It means, as you could see here, whenever the value is negative, you are behind the schedule, right? Whenever the value is positive, when you have a positive schedule variance, you are ahead of schedule. When there are no variance, when the schedule variance is 0, everything is going as per the plan. Okay, like we find CPI, we can also find the SPI, which is Schedule Performance Index, where the formula is earned value over planned value, sorry. So it's going to be 25,000 divided by 30,000. So SPI is 0.833. Okay, so 25,000 over 30,000 is going to be 0.833. What does that mean again? If any index value is less than 1, the performance is poor, right? So what does 0.83 means? You are behind the schedule. Again, here is the point. Don't we know by looking at the schedule variance, we are behind the schedule already? Like for example, when you have a negative variance, it says behind the schedule, right? Then what is the relevance of finding SPI? SPI can be used for forecasting purpose again. One important thing about SPI, like we quantify CPI, we cannot quantify SPI. Or in other words, when the SPI is 0.833, we cannot tell, and we should not tell we are 17% behind the schedule, right? That level of quantification you cannot able to do. All we can tell is less than 1 means behind the schedule. How many days, weeks, percentage you're behind the schedule, you cannot tell, right? Why you cannot tell? Because here we are calculating in dollar value, right? So if you really want to know how many days you are behind the schedule, look at your project schedule. Project schedule will tell you how many days you are behind the schedule. Okay, right? So here we go. Cost variance negative 7,000, CPI 0.781, schedule variance negative 5,000, 0.833. Okay, so these are the 4 formulas we have for performance measurement. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next topic. I can see a few of you asked some question. Is there any contact in CPI and SPI? Well, I didn't understand this question. Is there any contact in CPI and SPI? Well, I didn't get the question. Can we repeat why we use CPI? Again, CPI is used for cost forecasting purpose, as well as to understand the magnitude of your good or bad performance. Okay, so, well, that's about it. No more questions. All right, now let's move on to forecasting. Okay, we are now going to do cost forecasting. Khalid Khan is asking, can we calculate the number of days delay from these parameters? That is what we cannot do and we should not do. Okay, how many days you are behind the schedule? Look at the schedule. That's what schedule is for. Someone is asking, can you show us in curve form the CPI and SPI? Well, you cannot really show that in a curve form. With the CPI and SPI, you can do trend analysis, but you cannot really do the curve form. But I can show the cost variance and schedule variance in the curve form, which is this is your S curve, right? And this is your BAC. And let's say this is today. Okay, if this is today, this should be your planned value. Your actual cost could be right over here. This is your actual cost. Your earned value could be, for example, right over here. This is your earned value. The difference between the actual cost and the earned value is your cost variance, and the difference between the planned value and the earned value is your schedule variance. Okay, well, if this is what you mean, okay. Somebody is asking, what is the difference between CPI FTC and CPI FAT? Honestly, I never heard this terminologies, these acronyms, FTC, FAT. In SPI and CPI, is decimal place important? Absolutely, very, very important, especially if your project runs into millions. Decimal makes a lot of difference, which I'll show it now to you. Okay, again, please, why we calculate SPI and what does it mean by the number 0.833? Okay, Ahmed, SPI is used for 2 purposes. One, to figure out whether you are ahead of schedule or behind the schedule. If the value is less than 1, we are behind the schedule. Okay, when the value is less than 1, we are behind the schedule. And also, SPI is used for forecasting purpose, which I'm going to do it now. So you'll understand what the reason behind having an SPI. Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, let's move on to forecasting. Okay, well, to do the forecasting, I'm gonna use one empty plain slide. Okay, so you'll understand the concept better. Okay, let me just move the slide above. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So watch this. Let me pick a color. Okay. Watch this. I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay. What I'm doing now, I'm doing forecasting now. Okay. Before I show the formula, let me tell you the logic behind the forecasting. Okay. So I'm just drawing a straight line here. It doesn't look straight, but it's fair enough, right? This is your S curve, right? Basically, I took a S curve and made it as a straight line, which basically starts from 0 and goes up to $40,000, right? So this is your BAC. Okay, so the project S curve, I took it and made it as a straight line, 40,000. Okay, now out of this $40,000 of work, how much work we completed? Again, out of this total BAC 40,000, how much work we completed? And again, how much work you completed is nothing but what is your earn value, because we completed 200 sides of the compound wall, right? So somewhere logically, I'll draw a line here, okay, and I will write my earn value is 25,000. That's the work which I completed. Okay, fair enough. How much work is remaining? How much work is remaining? How much work is remaining? Very simple, right? 40,000 minus 25,000, 15,000 is the work remaining. So BAC minus EV equals to 15,000. That's the work remaining. Okay, so 25 plus 15 constitutes your total project budget, BAC. Now, we completed $25,000 work, but how much we spent? 32,000, right? So I'm going to draw one more line. This represents the actual cost line. So maybe it will go up till here because you spent a lot than what you have accomplished. So my actual cost is 32,000. Okay. And this is the reason why during this period, okay, this is the reason why during this period, the CPI 0.781. Okay. All right. So this is your current status, right? So far, what I have given here is nothing but the pictorial representation of the current status. Okay. Now, what basically we are going to do in cost forecasting is we are going to forecast what is going to happen in the future. We're going to forecast what's going to happen in future using two different approach. One is EAC, which stands for estimate at completion, which is similar to BAC. BAC is budget at completion, whereas EAC is estimated completion. This is the planned cost. This is the forecasted cost. And then once we find EAC, we're also going to find ETC, estimate to complete. Okay, estimate to complete. All right, fair enough. Now, again, what is EAC? EAC means to complete the entire project. Okay, what is the forecast cost? Okay, so by the time you complete the project, how much you end up in spending? That's the question we are trying to answer in EAC. Okay, now to find the EAC, we can take up to 4 different assumptions. Okay, we can take up to 4 different assumptions, and you can see these are the 4 assumptions with the formula. I'll come back to this, but let me just give an idea using my way of explaining it. Okay, well, the first assumption we take is the past performance of the project will also continue in future. Understood? The past performance of the project will also continue in future, which means, let me say EAC1. That's the first assumption. Okay, which means the CPI for the remainder of the project will also be 0.781. Okay, the CPI for the remainder of the project will also be 0.781. Okay, I'm just pausing because somebody is asking some question. Basically I need to open some window and check your question, because sometimes I get worried that when you type something, I get a pop-up, a question is asked. I'm not really worried about the question itself. I'm just really worried about, are you still listening to me? Are you still able to see my videos? Because sometimes, this is the only mode of communication. If suddenly if the voice, was not, audible, I need to go and check, what's going on. Anyway, no issues. All right. Okay. So what happens is, okay, just click the wrong button. All right. What happens is, if the past performance will also continue in future, okay, what will be the EAC? Which means by the time we complete the project, how much we end up in spending, right? So basically what we have to do is, throughout the project, my performance will be same, which is 0.781. So we use the first formula here, which is take the total project budget and straight away divide with the CPI. So if you see here, I'm taking $40,000 and dividing with my CPI, 0.781. So using this approach, using this assumption of the past performance is typical throughout the project, my EAC is $51,216. All right, so that's the first assumption. All right. See, not all the time this assumption is a valid assumption. For example, your performance so far is 0.781. you call for an immediate meeting with your team members, and we are trying to investigate what went wrong. Now, why our performance is really that poor, and you could able to do certain analysis and come up with a solution for your poor performance. I mean, in terms of what really going wrong, you could able to identify the root cause of the performance, and also you come up with a solution to fix those problems, which means you should take an assumption the past performance will not continue in future, or in other words, the CPI for the remainder of the work will be 1, which is nothing but as per the plan, because whatever is causing the poor performance, you could identify them and you could able to eliminate them. Are you following me? Right? Whereas the assumption what we are taking now, the CPI will continue throughout the project, is assumption when you could really not able to figure out what is causing the poor performance, or there are too many variables that is causing the poor performance. So the past performance will be continuing in the future as well, because nothing much you can do about it. Okay, so that's why we have different scenario based EAC. All right. Okay. The second scenario what we're discussing now is the past performance will not continue in future, or in other words, the future work or the remaining work will be performed as per the plan. Okay, which means the money what we spend is what we spend. We cannot do anything about it, the $32,000. But the remaining work is $15,000. The assumption is we will spend only $15,000. Okay, so the simple calculation is 32,000 plus 15,000. Okay, so the formula is actual cost plus BAC minus EV. Actual cost is 32,000. BAC minus EV is nothing but the remaining work, which is 40,000 minus 25,000. So using this assumption, the EAC is 47,000. So when you think about it, this 47,000 is nothing but your BAC of 40,000 plus your variance so far. Your variance so far, remember, is 7,000. And what you're necessarily saying is there won't be any further variance in the future. Okay, so that's what you're basically telling. Okay. All right, so that's the second assumption. Right? Now, in both the assumption, we used only CPI. We haven't used SPI. Now, what if we want to use SPI also into our EAC calculation? That's the third assumption, EAC number 3, where we're going to use CPI as well as SPI. Okay. For example, let me give a scenario here. Let's say for a particular project, the CPI is 1. For a particular project, CPI is 1. What will be the EAC for this project? The EAC will be equal to BAC, because there is no variation. Everything is going as per the plan. Okay, so your EAC will be BAC. But for the same project, the SPI is 0.6. As an example, right? The SPI is 0.6. What does that mean? That means this project is awfully behind the schedule, but however, they're maintaining the cost performance. Now, using the first assumption, the second assumption, when you calculate the EAC will be equivalent to BAC, because we are considering only CPI into the formula. We are not considering the SPI. But when you think about it, when the SPI is 0.6, you are really behind the schedule. So what does that mean is you may not able to finish the project as per the schedule. You might have to extend the project time. As you know, with the extension of time, the cost will start to increase, right? So sometimes we should also consider SPI into the cost forecasting calculation. So in that case, what we do is very simple. We take the money what we spent so far, 32,000, nothing much we can do about it, plus we take the remaining work, which is 15,000, divided by, we multiply the CPI with the SPI. So the work remaining will be divided with the multiplication of CPI and SPI. So here is the formula: actual cost plus BAC minus EV over CPI times SPI. And of course, when both the value is less than 1 here, when you multiply, the value will even go down, I think around 0.65. So when you do the math, the value is 55,055. So it will be much more higher than the first assumption EAC, because here we are considering also the schedule performance into account. Okay, that's the third assumption. All right. Okay, going back to the slide, there is another assumption, fourth assumption. Okay, there is another assumption, EAC number 4. Okay. Somebody's asking, how can the CPI be 1 if the SPI is less or greater? It can be. Okay, it can be. When you see, for example, Emil, when your progress is very slow, or in other words, let's go to our own example. Okay, let's go to our own example. The plan says, okay, let's say the plan says we're supposed to complete 3 sides of the compound wall, right? We're supposed to complete 3 sides of the compound wall. So our plan value was how much? 30,000. Okay. For example, the actual progress is you completed 2 sides of the compound wall. The actual progress is you completed 2 sides of the compound wall. So the earned value will be 20,000, right? Because you completed only 2 sides of the compound wall. And you spent exactly 20,000 only. Which means what? The CPI will be 1, right? Because the money what you spent is as per the progress. Fine. But you are behind the schedule, right? You're supposed to complete 3 sides of the compound wall, but you complete only 2 sides of the compound wall. Okay. Does it make sense, Emil? If that is what you're asking for. Your CPI can be 1. Your CPI can be even greater than 1, where your SPI could be less than 1. Okay. I mean, does it make sense to everyone? Okay, I'm just reading some questions. Fair enough. So the fourth assumption is finding EAC. Okay, finding EAC where the future work or the work remaining, okay, is no longer valid. Or in other words, the work remaining will be completely re-estimated. Okay, so in this case, the formula is pretty straightforward. We take the actual cost, the money what we spend for, plus we re-estimate the remaining work. Okay, we re-estimate the remainder of the work, isn't it? Okay, so how much it will be, we really cannot calculate because that depends on your re-estimate. So there is no formula for the re-estimate. We have to really manually re-estimate. Right? For example, when we do this assumption, a lot of reasons why we can use this assumption. For example, a lot of scope has been changed for the remainder of the work. A lot of scope has been changed for the remainder of the, which means no longer the 15,000 is valid, isn't it? Or the CPA so far is really poor, for example, 0.3, 0.4, which means something went wrong, in your project. Maybe your estimation was poor. Maybe the escalation is very, very high. Maybe you did not understand the scope properly, So there could be several reasons, where your original, estimate is no longer valid. So you have to re-estimate. Okay. So that's a fourth assumption. Okay, the formula for the fourth assumption is actual cost plus bottom up ETC. ETC means nothing but the remainder of the work. Okay, so these are the 4 formulas we use to calculate estimate at completion. All right, fair enough. Let us move on to ETC, which is estimate to complete. Once you have the EAC, finding ETC is pretty straightforward, because how do you calculate ETC? Okay, pretty simple. Now let me draw a line here. I don't want to go there again. Okay, this is the 0 and this is your EAC, which in our case, for example, is 51216. I'm using the first assumption. I believe it's 51216. Let me go back and check. Yes, 51216. Okay, I'm using the first assumption. Right now, ETC means how much it would cost, to complete the remainder of the work. Okay, how much it would cost to complete the remainder of the work, which means you had already spent 32,000. Okay, that is your actual cost. So ETC means how much it costs to complete the remainder of the work. Okay, which is pretty simple, right? Because we know the EAC already, we can take the EAC and subtract that with the actual cost. That's it. Okay, which means you can use EAC1 or EAC2 or EAC3, whichever you like. Okay, for example, in this case, I'm using EAC1, okay, where I take 51216 minus 32,000. So the amount of money you need to complete the remainder of the work is 19,216. Okay, is 19,216. All right, or we can re-estimate the remainder of the work, right? We can this is called bottom-up ETC, which goes into this formula, which is 32,000 plus bottom-up ETC. Okay. How much it will be? We cannot use any calculators or calculations. You have to basically do the estimation one more time, okay, for the remainder of the work. Okay, so that's how you calculate ETC. All right, just a couple of more formula, guys, and we are done with it. Just hold on, bear with me. Okay. All right. We're going to calculate TCPI, two complete performance centers. But before that, let me finish one formula and come back to this, because it will be easy for me to explain this formula as I'm explaining relevant concepts. Okay, what is VAC? VAC stands for variance at completion, which is nothing but by the time we complete the project, what will be the variance? Which is nothing but how much money we will be spending on and above the original BAC. Okay, the formula is pretty straightforward. Take the BAC 40,000 minus our forecast EAC. Okay, so this formula tells you that by the time you complete the project, most likely you will be spending $11,216 on and above the project budget. Okay, using EAC 1. Okay, you can also use EAC 2, EAC 3. But normally you don't use all of them in your project. You decide which assumption is a valid assumption and you stick onto that EAC, right? Okay, so this is called VAC. And again, remember, whenever we talk about variance, and when the performance is poor, the answer should come negative. We already know the performance is poor, right? So it's going to be 40 minus 51,216, we get 11,216. Okay, this is the last formula on our webinar in the slide, but I have to go back and do the TCPI, which I missed. Okay, let me get back to TCPI. Now, TCPI stands for two complete performance index. Okay, on which usually the first formula is pretty simple and straightforward to understand. The second formula, confuses a lot of people, right? Let me try to, explain in a way it's not confusing to you, but I'm just giving you a disclaimer. Okay. Someone asked a very fantastic question. Can we take the average of all EAC? Let's find the EAC in all the four assumptions, add them up, find the average, right? Suhas. Well, I don't think so, Suhas. Maybe you can, maybe you can write a research paper on it. Amir Khan, what's the difference between ETC and EAC? EAC is the forecasted total cost of the project, whereas ETC is from now to complete the project, how much we need. So ETC is for the remainder of the project work, whereas EAC is for the total project work. Okay. Somebody's asking which EAC is advisable to use in the project to get accurate result. That's why I told you, you have to use the assumption based on the current situation of your project. None of them is better than the other one. So, the situation decides which EAC to use. And that's why I gave you a couple of situations, right? Okay, Sunil Kumar, that's a real big question. I cannot answer now. Okay, let me finish the TCPI. Someone is asking what's the difference between BAC and EAC? BAC is the budget, the plan. EAC is the forecast. Okay. I'm gonna close the question and answer and go ahead with completing this slide, because some people might be need to be leaving soon. Fair enough. So how do we calculate TCPI? What is TCPI? Two complete performance index. And what we're trying to find here is this. Okay, fair enough. So far my performance is poor, which is 0.781. Obviously someone will come and pop this question. Is there any possibility that we can finish the project as per the original budget? Is it a possibility? Well, we might want to know whether it's a possibility or not. Okay, how we know is basically we need to ask the question, what should be my CPI for the remainder of the project? Understand, what should be my CPI for the remainder of the project so that I could complete the project as per the original budget? Are you following, guys? So basically I'm asking the question. Let me go back to this slide. I can able to explain this. For example, so far my CPI is 0.71. what should be my CPI for the remainder of the work so that I could finish the project as per the original budget, not the, the AAC. That's the question, right? Fair enough. Let's find out what should be the CPI. So TCPI stands for Two Complete Performance Index. Sometimes I prefer to call it as target CPI because that's what you're really trying to figure out, right? Finding the answer is pretty simple and straightforward. TCPI equals to BAC minus EV divided by BAC minus AC. In simple term, work remaining divided by fund remaining. How much work is remaining? $15,000 work is remaining, isn't it? And how much fund is remaining? Out of the $40,000, you already spent $32,000, right? So the fund remaining is $8,000. Okay. So when you do the math, okay, you get 1.875, which means you should try to achieve 1.875 as a CPI for the remainder of the project so that you could complete the project as per the original budget. Okay. Now 1.875 is really, really high. It's not possible, especially when your performance is like 0.78 now. How can you bring it to 1.875? It's really challenging unless you make some changes to the scope or don't pay your employees and don't pay the suppliers. That's not going to be possible, right? So 1.1, 1.08, 1.2, maybe we can try with increased productivity with a lot of hard work and effort, but 1.85 is too much to ask for. Okay, so that is called TCPI if you want to finish the project as per the original budget. Okay, fair enough. Then we have TCPI if you want to finish the project as per the EAC, not the BAC, as per the EAC. Now this is what really confuses a lot of people, so sort of listen carefully. Okay, so what is the formula? BAC minus EV divided by EAC minus EAC. Now BAC minus EV is the work remaining, which is $15,000. Okay, which is $15,000. Now, if you look at this formula now, we're no longer using 40,000 as the remaining budget. All right, we are using 51,216. So basically, what could have happened is you would have gone to the management and told the management 40,000 is impossible. Could you please approve the EAC, which is 51,216? And if the management have approved it, okay, then you would use 51,216 as your sort of revised budget, but you don't really revise the budget, please. The budget will remain the same, but you let the management know that 40 is not possible. I'm going to try to do it for 51,216, and the management says, well, fair enough, do 51,216. We will be happy if you do that, right? So in that case, the formula will be 51,216 minus 32,000. Okay, now guess what? You will get 0.781 only, which is your current CPI, because what basically you're telling the management is, I will maintain the current efficiency level. I will maintain the current CPI throughout the project and complete the project for 51,216. Are you following me? Basically what you're telling the management, I will ensure that my current CPI will not dip down even further. I will maintain 0.781 and finish the project for 51,216. Understood? Then someone might ask me, then what's the point in finding this? Because this is going to be the same as CPI. But here is the trick. Here is the most important point. People get confused. Now, this is now when you do the calculation. For example, next week, okay, after a week, you might calculate TCPI. Where your BAC will not change. Okay, so listen carefully. Your BAC will not change, 40,000. Your earn value could have changed depending on the progress of the project. Your actual cost could have changed depending on the money what you spent, but your EAC you should not change. Why I'm saying you should not change? Because you might have a different EAC after a week. Or get me a point. After 1 week, when you're calculating EAC based on the current CPI during that time, for example, after 1 week your CPI could have been 0.68. What does it mean? In the next 1 week, the performance of the project even gone down. So your CPI could have been 0.68 after 1 week. Whereas your EAC could have been much more higher than the 51,216. Are you following me? Because your performance going even down further, your EAC will even go up further. Got it? For example, your EAC for the next week could have been 54,000 using the same assumption. But we should not use the 54,000 because we asked the management and we told the management that we will finish for 51,216. So the 51,216 will remain the same. So what could happen after 1 week? What could happen after 1 week on this CPI is sorry, not the CPI, I'm sorry. This TCPI is, this TCPI would go up, possibly, for example, 0.85. Why? Because in the next 1 week, your actual CPI is going down. Okay, when your CPI is going down, right, you need to increase your TCPI because you want to bring back the performance to 0.781, whereas the current performance is 0.681. Are you following? Okay, so the idea is we should try to maintain this CPI throughout the project. Okay, if the CPI goes down for the remainder of the work, your TCPI will go up. Okay, and vice versa. What could possibly happen is you could have improved your performance in the future. For example, what if your CPI from now till the next week is 0.90, which means you have improved your performance. If that happens, the TCPI will actually go down. The TCPI will actually go down because you had improved the performance, and you are expecting to maintain only 0.781 CPI throughout the project. Because you have improved the performance, you could be a little more relaxed for the remainder of the work. So what the TCPI could say is, no problem if you achieve 0.70 for the remainder of the work because you have improved the performance in the last 1 week. All right? And I'm going to stop here. I'm sure some of you might be get confused here. The more and more I explain, the more and more confusion you will get into, and those who understood the concept get into confusion. So the best way to deal with this, if you're not clear in this concept, is, as I told you, I'm going to record this video. I'm going to post it on our website, and all of you will get a link to that website. So basically, watch this video one more time, as many times as you want the recorded session, so you could able to understand the logic carefully. Okay. All right. Well, that's what we need to know in the earned value management. We did the progress measurement, we did the performance measurement, we did the forecasting, we did the variance, and we did the TCPI, to complete performance index. All right. Okay, so basically that's all from me in this webinar. I'm going to take a few questions. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask question. And if you don't have any question, I'm not going to do any more slides. You can say bye and you can leave. All right. As I said, I'm going to record. It's already been recording. I'm going to upload this recording in our website tomorrow. Everyone get a link along with the PDF of this presentation as well. Those who requested for the training certificate will get a PDF copy of the training certificate tomorrow based on your attendance. If you haven't requested for the certificate, you can follow the email which we sent you. You can make the online payment of $29. We can send you the certificate. Okay. So just allow us 2 to 3 days time to send you the PDF certificate copy. Okay, you can use that certificate to claim your PDUs for the PMP and CEUs for your CCP certification. Okay. And we also do online training program on CCP certified cost professional. I would recommend you to go through our website called ccpstudy.com. It is one of the very valuable certification from US, from AACEI International. Okay, the certification is CCP, Certified Cost Professional. Right. So go through this website. It has all the details. We have different packages available. Okay. Fair enough. I'll take some questions now. Yeah, Mr. Ahmed, you can send an email. See, though, for those who want the certificate, who haven't initially requested for it, please go ahead and request now. You have the the email link. If you just made the payment, if you just click the link and make the payment, we will have your name and everything. We will contact you and we'll issue the certificate. Okay. Alternatively, you can also send email to Ria, R-I-Y, Ria at ccpstudy.com. You can send her an email. She will guide you and she will issue you the course completion certificate, training certificate. Okay. Let me go through some questions. Someone said confused in the last 5 minutes. Well, I give you the warning, you will get confused. Don't know issues, just watch, because some concepts are easy to understand, some concept requires in-depth understanding. So watch the video tomorrow, you will get it. Can we download the video in future, Emil? Well, I'm not going to say yes, it's up to you. If you are a techie, you know how to download, but we're not going to give a simple button where you can download, right? Anything online is downloadable, but we're not going to give that option. It's up to you how you download it. Can I see your past video sessions? Let me see if I can do that. Somebody's asking, that's a good question. Somebody's asking, I understood earned value management cost. Can we also apply this in duration? Yes. Okay. Earned value is also applied in duration, right? When you do that, that is called productivity analysis. For example, the BAC, okay, the BAC can be budgeted work hours. Okay. For example, 40,000 work hours. Okay. Then we have credit work hours, then we have earned work hours, then we have actual work hours. It is possible to calculate all of this calculation for duration as well. Maybe we can do that as one more webinar if that sounds interesting for some of you. Okay, because that has a lot of interesting discussion. Can we claim CEUE for this? Yes, Syed, you can claim CEUE. Somebody's asking, what is equalization margin? Frankly, no idea about it. I don't want to give some information which I'm not sure about it. The recording sent to your email. Yes, we will give you the link of the recording so you can watch the video online. How many PDUs for this certificate? 2 PDUs. Can you give an example for CP and TCPI again? Pretty much, Mohammed, please watch the recording again, because we already finished the webinar. Are there any techniques to determine the monthly or weekly spread of the ETC? You can do that by developing your own methods in the Excel sheet. You can do the trend analysis. There are some advanced methods available. I'm not covering that. These are all the basics, fundamental. Is there any CCT preparation seminar? Believe me, Emil, the webinar what you attended now could most likely answer 30% of the exam question in CCT. Okay, you can join for our CCP online training, which covers the CCT topics also. Can you be reached for further guidance on certification? Yes, I gave my email address. If someone is in UAE and want my mobile number, you can take my mobile number 055 481 9989. If you are not cleared PMP, can we still save and use the PD afterwards? No, Kishore. PDU is a term used once you become a PMP. What you're doing now is simply contact hours. This will not be considered as PDUs. So I'm going to stop the recording now.